Hey everyone, it's Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for, finally, the Xbox One / Xbox Series X, because the discs don't really matter anymore. They just kind of help you download things. For some reason, you can't play without the disc unless you get a digital copy. But anyway, this is basically a digital copy, even though I have the disc version. It's bullshit. It really pisses me off. I'm a physical media guy. One day I won't be able to probably play this because of the bullshit of modern video games that people in the audience have let the companies get away with. But anyway, that's another story for another day. Here I am talking about the Day 1 edition of Saints Row, the reboot from 2022. Of course, it's still 2022, so I'm about 4 or 5 months late getting to this. I got it as a birthday present from my wife, and I'm going to have a very different review from you. I promise to God, this is not going to be your usual review. I don't know how long the video will be, but it's not going to be your usual review. I'm a massive Saints Row fan. And since I started basically once upon a time when Grand Theft Auto 4 had come out, I'd become obsessed with that and GTA in general. I had a friend who I went over to his house to hang out, and he had kind of what looked like a knockoff GTA to me, which apparently was a game called Saints Row, the original 2006 release. Now, I saw him playing this game in probably, I want to say about 2009, 2010. That was about the time I started playing it. And I bought a copy pretty soon after I got an Xbox 360 and got into GTA 4 and all that stuff. But I loved that game. I thought it was so good. And then in 2009, about 3 years after the first one, we got Saints Row 2, which I still think is the best of the whole series. I love it deeply. I think it's an absolute classic. It's such a badass game. It's fun. It's crazy. The humor is great. The action is phenomenal. It's just a total overall win. And then Saints Row the Third came out. And I love that game too. I know it's kind of hated by most of the community. A lot of people consider it in the fandom to be the beginning of the end that led to things like this 2022 reboot. On one hand, I understand where people are coming from, but most of the time I don't feel that way. I like Saints Row the Third quite a bit. And I'll go even further to say, right now I am currently playing Saints Row 4, elected, or re-elected, whatever it's called, for the first time ever. I have it on PS3. I bought it like 5 years ago, and I never got around to playing it. The only time I ever even knew that Saints Row 4 had come out, apparently it was supposed to be a DLC for Saints Row the Third. It ended up becoming its own thing. I didn't even know it had come out until the Rad Brad put up videos for it way back in the day, like 8 years ago or something. And I immediately waited, and eventually I got an actual game copy from like GameStop for like $6. It wasn't bad at all. And I wish I had a box. I don't. I just have the disc. Eventually I'll probably try to get a box for it, with the manual and all that, just because I love it so much. Saints Row 4 is really good. I don't know what people are complaining about. I understand the fact that it should not be a superhero game. If it was a DLC, I think it'd be more well received. But as a standalone game, or what's supposed to be a standalone game, it's a little wild, a little bit different than what you're used to with Grand Theft Auto. It has aliens, has a lot of different things. It's not your typical gangster story. 3 was doing a good balance of having a little bit of sci-fi mixed in with a gangster, gang versus big corporation story, and that was pretty cool, even though it was a deviation from those original 2 games. I never played Gat Out of Hell. I really want to. Looks cool. It looks different, but looks cool. Looks different in the sense of Saints Row 4, which I like. Let's see, what is there left? Agents of Mayhem. I never played that, never even heard about it until recently when I started getting back into video games, and I heard about the Saints Row 2022 reboot, and people mentioned a game called Agents of Mayhem. I looked it up. It does not look like my kind of thing. It looks like a Fortnite piece of shit. I'm not a Fortnite guy. Again, I'm just now getting back into video games for the first time in a long time. I've been buying kind of things left and right. Things that I missed out on, things that are old, things that are new, a lot of different things. But this game was one of the ones when I heard about it and saw the fucking horrible trailer that showed the fucking horrible direction they went in for this game and for this franchise. It broke my heart, but I knew I would buy it anyway. And as I said, I got it as a birthday present from my sweet, beautiful wife, Rachel. Rachel, if you happen to be watching this, I love you so much, my sweet girl. Saints Row is, as she knows, one of my favorite franchises of all time, one of my favorite gaming series of all time. As a matter of fact, I'll even go this far as to say Saints Row 1 and mainly 2, and kind of 3, for me, pick up on what I loved about Grand Theft Auto San Andreas that GTA 4 and 5 didn't have. That goofiness, that over-the-top silliness that San Andreas has, mixed with a good story, is what 2 really, really manages to treasure and hold on to and really develop in a great way. Saints Row typically took over that role in my life when I got an Xbox 360. As much as I love GTA 4, as many hours as I put into GTA 4, I played the shit out of Saints Row 1 and 2, mainly 2. At one time, I even had like a channel that I kind of put like 1 or 2 videos up. I planned on doing just like, I guess like stunt videos, but they weren't going to be like high quality. This is before I really knew how to do like actual gameplay footage recording stuff with one of those PRV, whatever they are things. They don't have them anymore, but they used to for Xbox 360 and PS3 to record your gameplay. You couldn't just do like a capture and put it up like you can on Xbox One and PS4. With all that being said, I want to really use all that 5 or 6 minutes of rambling to tell you how much Saints Row means to me. I'm a massive fan, even though I've been away for a while. I meant to play 4, like I said, and I am right now, and I still think 4, so far from my exposure, is better than this game in a lot of ways, but not every way. I'm not very far into it, but I do love what I have played so far in that first hour or 2 of that game. Saints Row 2022. As I said before, the trailer dropped, and it hit all of us in the gut. Even the people who weren't fans of Saints Row felt bad for us fans in the Saints Row community, because they knew what was happening. It was the same thing that happened in Marvel Comics, DC Comics, the same thing that happened in many companies out there, many movie franchises like Star Wars. We could see the dumb haircuts. We could see the not just representation, but over-representation. And there's a car flying down the road. Good God, that sounds like a Saints Row car. I don't know if you guys could hear that or not, but that was interesting. We saw all the bad signs of what would probably be a really awful game. You know? It looked so hipster-esque. It looked so woke, if you will. And I'll be able to admit, I want to admit this, but please hear me out and please listen to the rest of the review, no matter how long it is, because I have a lot of things to say for both crowds. Yeah, I was one of the people saying, like, I was so hesitant about this game because of how wokeified it looked. It looked fucking dumb. And the premise being that there's a group of, like, friends that are like 20-somethings, maybe even 30-somethings, that are trying to pay off student debt by becoming hoodlums. It's fucking dumb. That whole premise is stupid. That is the premise of this game. And the idea that the Saints never even existed until these morons got together and developed it is even more insulting to us fans. It feels like we're being peed on, just like what happened with Disney and Star Wars. It feels like an insult. We don't have the gangster stuff. We don't have a lot of the offensive humor that used to be really fun with Grand Theft Auto and Saints Row. In either series, we don't really have that anymore. It's kind of a shame. GTA managed to keep its kind of parody nature, but it stayed away from the offensive stuff in 5. So when they made announcements that GTA 6 would be more inclusive and so on and so on, I didn't really care about that, especially seeing the leaks. They didn't look that bad, at least so far, you know? But when I look at Saints Row, it really got put on the chopping block. Now, this is the thing. I admit that it looked woke, and it kind of is woke. And I would say it is that like 5% of the entire game. Now, you may wonder why I'm even bothering with percentages. Well, let me tell you a little story. That storyline in this game of the young people with the weird student debts things that they have to start a $1 billion gangster company in an old church. All of that stuff is really stupid. It's stupid. Let's just admit it. Even if you're a fan of this game like I am, yeah, I said that, but hear me out. Even if you're a fan of this game like I am, you have to admit that the story and the inclusion of the weird sci-fi elements is so stupid and so misplaced in the worst possible way. It's trying so hard to be Saints Row the Third, without any offensiveness to it, without any real pop culture nature to it. I agree with many people. This feels like a rushed project, even though it took 8 years to get it. I don't know how long it took to make it, but, you know, we had 8 years break since this and Agents of Mayhem and all that. So, I have to say it again. I like the game a lot. I love it even. Today, I hit the 100% completion mark on the first game I've done that to in probably 10 or 15 years. The only games I really do that with are Lego games. As a matter of fact, I don't do that with GTA. I don't do that with really anything. I just kind of play games for the story and the gameplay. Campaign mode is really my thing that I go to. I don't really do online because I don't like playing online. At least I used to love that, but not so much anymore. I'm more of a single-player guy. I like getting into the world. It's kind of like how fantasy fans, and I mentioned this in previous reviews, like with Avatar 2, a lot of people like Avatar because they like the world of it. They like the look of it. They don't care if the story is a copy and paste. That is how I feel with Grand Theft Auto and Saints Row and all of these open-world sandbox games that are kind of the same thing over and over again, and every once in a while you'll get a Sleeping Dogs, or a Saints Row 1 or 2, or a Saints Row the 3rd for that matter. You'll get something different. This looks bland. The story mode, the actual storytelling, is fucking horrible. And at the end of the game, when you get the credits and you see the people who worked on this game, in any of the departments, it does not surprise me that this game turned out so woke the 5% of the time that it did. The virtue signaling is there 5% of the time, and it really does not affect everything else. I mean that, and just please, if you love Saints Row, get through this fucking horrible 4-hour or 3-hour long story. It's a very short story, flies by super fast in like 4 hours. If you can get through that, and get into the side activities, that some are from the previous games, like insurance fraud. That's in here too in a new way. I really like that. If you can get through all this bullshit cringiness in the story and the dialogue writing, if you can get through all of that and the characters that I can't fucking stand, if you can get through all that, I really think you'll have a great time. Yeah, it's kind of filled with a little bit of fluff. The game itself, the story mode is extremely repetitive. Of course, there won't be any spoilers in this review. I know it's been out for like 5 or 6 months. I don't want to get into that. The story is very repetitive. It has just absolutely insane plot twists that are so dumb in the execution. They feel so watered down. Everything about that aspect of this game feels very watered down. So does the gore. I remember the first 2 Saints Row games, not even so much 3 and 4, but the first 2 being very gory. Not super gory, but enough that it was like, ooh, that looked like it would hurt if I shot an NPC. But I'm going to tell you, this game is watered down in those respects, but I love the game still. Yeah, I loved it. 100% completion I hit today. I started this right before Thanksgiving. Like, I played it for like off and on for about 2 weeks. I was playing Silent Hill 2 and some other things. I still haven't finished Silent Hill 2. I need to do that and get a review for it. But I played some other things on the side, like Modern Warfare 2019. And then I got into Christmas movies. And here we are post-Christmas, before New Year's. And I've spent the last 4 or 5 days getting up at 7 a.m. and playing the shit out of this game. And I'm going to be honest with you, there's another issue too, are the bugs in the game. Because a massive bug that I had in here that wasn't game-breaking, I didn't really have any game-breaking bugs at this point. There are still plenty of bugs in it. Most people complained about that. Some people couldn't progress through the story because of that. The only real bug that bothered me tremendously was that every once in a while my character would change his clothes without me consenting to it. And the other thing that really got to me was the fact that I wanted to know how much time I'd put into this game when I eventually would hit that 100% in the game, playing all of the side missions, all of the big jobs that you can get, getting all the different locations for jobs that I can get, like insurance fraud and whatever. I wanted to know how much time I dumped into this, and by my calculation, if I had to assume correctly, I had to have dumped about 40 or 50 hours into this game. And I'm going to tell you, I don't regret it. There are certain things, like one particular word I'd like to use in this game is a skyscraper, that's extremely disappointing. There's a lot of disappointing things in here, but I had a massively great time. It took me back to the days, and I know this is a weird comparison, even though it's kind of not, but a lot of people will find this kind of insulting. I recently played through GTA San Andreas and GTA 3 for the first time, and completed it for the first time. Vice City I completed for the first time, I believe. All recently, all within the last 6 months, as well as my personal, at the moment, favorite GTA, which is Grand Theft Auto 4, The Lost and Damned. It was a DLC that's kind of its own game, shorter story, all that stuff. I played all 4 of those in the last 6 months, from beginning to end, pretty much. And I love them all. That's just the story mode. I don't really do the side quest things, because I don't really like them. You know, I don't. Not in GTA. But in Saints Row, I typically enjoy the activities you can do outside of the story mode. Sometimes they're enforced for you to have to progress in the story mode by playing activities, and sometimes they're not. I think since GTA 2, or Saints Row 2, they weren't. But I love them in Saints Row. This game, when you finish up that cringy-ass, boring-ass, dull-ass story, that even the gameplay, like the shooting and stuff, feels super repetitive there. They feel like they repeat over and over the same thing constantly in that story mode. If you can make it through that and get to the actual activities, which you can do throughout the game, but I really recommend just pushing the story through, getting it out of the way, enjoy everything else. I had such a good time. And I was worried that I wouldn't. When I started playing this game, the first 20 or 30 minutes, I had that mentality of, you have to tell your wife or whoever got this game for you that you love the game because you don't want their feelings to get hurt, right? But this is the thing. That changed over time. When I finished up the main storyline, before you could get to the last mission involving a skyscraper, if you call that a mission, if you can get through all the cringe and all the terrible writing, all the awful, cringy dialogue, and these fucking characters that I'll get to in a moment, just don't you wait, I'll get there. If you can make it through all that, I think you'll love the activities. I had such a good time just doing the collect-a-thon stuff, like finding, for example, you have to find, like, I think it's bricks of heroin, I believe. They're just random crates of drugs that are usually dropped 3 at a time in random places throughout the maps, all over the map. And the world for me is pretty big. It's not as big as like GTA 5 or San Andreas or even GTA 4 in my opinion. But I like the map. It reminds me of San Andreas with the desert theme and all that, which that's another thing. Let's talk about the themes. This weird blending of like westerns and sci-fi and a regular old sandbox game like Sleeping Dogs or GTA or in this case Saints Row. That mix does not work for me. If you had kept just the Saints Row feel, the gangster feel, and added a western twist to it, kind of like Logan did, you know, the movie with Wolverine, the superhero mixed with western feel, that tone, that execution. If you could do that with Saints Row and exit this fucking science fiction stuff that works in Saints Row the Third because of the tone, because of the atmosphere, the humor, all of that stuff. If you can remove all that and just do the western gangster thing, this game would have been phenomenal, and I think it would have been well received if we had gotten rid of a lot of the dialogue and the woke weirdo-ness. Let's talk about some of the weird political shit in this game. I do think it's worth mentioning, because if you haven't cringed yet, after the 18 minutes I've rambled about this game, let me tell you, I never thought I'd play a Saints Row game and hear a bunch of idiot characters that I don't give a shit about, aside from the one that I created, which is the boss of the gang. The fact that I got to hear a bunch of morons in my fucking video game complain about how carbon footprints, that's what it was. The fact that I had to hear these people talk about carbon footprints and how important that was, not in a jokey way, they were being dead serious. The one particular character, Eli, who talks about this quite a few times, as a matter of fact, it's like they're going down the list in Volition and checking box after box after box of liberal ideology, and having to stay in a very hipster way up to the times. I see this joke constantly about the "how do you do fellow kids" Steve Buscemi meme being used to compare for this game and what this is like, basically as a sandbox or just a video game in general of any genre. This is the best example of a game I've ever seen do that. As much as I love it, it's totally that. It's 100% that. The collecting stuff I loved. I had a great time with the side mission stuff, like I said. I think the game is visibly beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And all of these wonderful things, even down to how the cars drive, I think are sometimes just as good, if not better, than Saints Row 2 and Saints Row the Third's driving for me. The cars are amazing. The customization for your character, for clothing, for hairstyles, for God's sake. Your cars, your guns can be customized. All these things can be optimized in the most interesting ways that you would never think of, that I think they outdid GTA on. Better than GTA's ever done, in my opinion. It was incredible, the stuff that you can customize in here. But there's barely any interiors on buildings in this game at all, aside from the ones you play with in the story mode missions. You can't customize the inside of your apartment or your church when you build the church for the actual gang, the Saints, that you're kind of, running. You can't customize really anything with interiors, which is why a lot of people like myself say there's one of two things happening here. Either the game had a lower budget, or they had crunch time, where they barely had time to really complete the things they wanted to do. And some people who got involved to invited to Volition's party a couple of years ago to kind of show and demonstrate some of the stuff from this game before it came out, of course, said that there are things they haven't been able to talk about. I think the NDA runs out in the next 6 months to a year, somewhere in there. Apparently there was a lot of things that Volition had revealed to these different YouTubers and website writers and whatever that they can't talk about yet. And I'm so curious about what things could be coming out from that, what things could have been in here. You have some GTA 5 isms in here, like you'll see coyotes out in the desert. A lot of this game is desert themed, by the way. You're playing in a town called Santa Elesos, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm really bad with names. But I loved all of that. I love the environments. I love the desert atmosphere just as much as I love the city and kind of even the areas that are more ritzy versus the areas that are more kind of urban, and then the areas that are even like more of a fake Las Vegas. Like all of that stuff is really good. It's really good. The art design is fantastic. The art design for characters and NPCs and all that are fantastic. The dialogue in here from the activities that you can do are really good. The NPC dialogue is good. I like some of the things in here that are pretty funny. There's a lot of good things in here, and I think, again, about 95% of it I genuinely love. It's just that cringy-ass virtue signaling, fuck, I can't even say it. The virtue signaling story that sucks so bad that it kind of ruins it for everybody. And I think most people are coming to this game just like I do usually to just play the story. That's what a lot of people do. And I swear to you, the gameplay feels different in the story mode missions versus just running around the world. And you can't really enjoy the running around the world sandbox stuff until you actually unlock things. Money is very hard to come by in this game because you can't get cheats for the game either. Cheats don't work on this, which is a terrible oversight and a terrible mistake. If they make a Saints Row 2, which I don't think they will, Volition has been basically moved into another company now, a parent company, so they probably will never have another Saints Row game ever come out. It's their fucking fault. They trashed the fans. They started talking trash on Twitter and all these other places to the fans. Don't ever do that. Please fucking learn some decency and don't do that. It really backfired on them. There are so many great things about this game, and it makes me sad that no one will appreciate those things because of the slap in the face the fans got by these creators online. In my opinion, these companies need to start saying, look, you can't act like that on your personal accounts. We will fire you over that. Because people at Marvel, people at DC, all of these people are like Kathleen Kennedy and these motherfuckers at Disney. They do this constantly. And then they get mad and blame everybody else, and mainly the fans who didn't go and who weren't invited to go see these games or play these games or see the movies or any of that kind of thing. But then they wonder why it flops or bombs. Stop insulting the fans. That is literally the only answer to any of this. Show them some respect. Even if you make a bad game, the diehards will pick it up like myself. But the more you insult fans, a lot of the diehards over time will avoid you. They will drop out and stop buying your shit. Stop doing that. I love the sound design of the game. I love the sound effects. I love the guns in here. They're pretty great. The problem is when you start off with them, they suck. You might have to shoot somebody like 20 times, 30 times to try to really kill them in the game. There's another side mission in here that I really love too that involves LARPing. It's kind of annoying at first, but as you play it, it gets better. It's kind of like a Mad Max, I don't know, kind of more of a Mad Max than anything themed game. It has some Dungeons and Dragons in there. There's other tons of references in this game like Saints Row typically does to other pop culture things like Minecraft, like Zelda, but in a good way. I say those things, I hope you don't roll your eyes over them because they're really good. If you play through the game and do everything to get the 100%, it's not required, but if you decide to, if you have enough fun that you want to, like I did, which is very rare for me, like I said, if you do that, you're going to have a lot of cool stuff in here you'll really appreciate, I think. I also love the fact that I can finally get a hockey mask at a store to play with on this game. There's also another outfit I want to bring up too that I didn't get until way later in the game. It's a superhero outfit. It's a full body costume. I love it. I made it completely black. I have white stripes on it. It looks like the Flash Thompson Venom from the comics that I love. It's great. It's absolutely great. I had a blast playing through the last couple of days dressed up like that. The cars are amazing. The more that you unlock things in the game, and with the 100% I have now, getting a bunch of other stuff in here, I love the cars that I unlocked over time. There's one kind of thing you had to collect that involves bones at one point in one area of the game. And the car I unlocked just from doing that was so worth it. With all the trouble I went through, it was so worth it. Let's see. What is something else to talk about? I'm really kind of running thin on things to say after 25 minutes, but I wanted to talk about a lot of the individual stuff. I haven't talked about the characters yet, so I guess I can go there. Then maybe the music. So characters. Of course, I said there's a group of friends. There's 4 of them. You're one of them. And your boss can be cool whether you make them a certain way or not. I really liked it a lot, my boss at least. The voice I got to pick, all that stuff. The voice in here sounded a lot like the one I had for Saints Row 2 and 3. It might be the same voice actor, it might not. He just sounds pretty similar. He has like a slight southern accent, which I liked. Very soothing, very cool. I love the character design I got to build. Let's see, what else was there? Oh, okay, so other characters. Eli. He looks like the guy from Arrow Season 4 that's tall, he's black, very skinny, and has, like, glasses. He sounds just like that guy, too. Every character that I see in media that's like that, to me, comes across as insulting. I have 2 young black cousins I love deeply. They don't act like that. Not that Eli, the character in here, can't act like that. It's just annoying. You see this trendy, stupid, hipster kid character everywhere. And he's so obnoxious. Eli is so fucking annoying. If you didn't have to talk to him so much in the game, or if he was just not in the game at all, I would have had a lot more fun with that. There is a Latina character in here named Nina, who I like quite a bit. I think she's actually kind of humorous. There's like this obsession she has with cars from when she was a kid. And that stuff works for her as a character, but she comes across as a self-insert, which SJWs constantly do in media. If you've seen a really dull, empty-headed, airheaded character from like comic books in recent years, because of SJW writing and virtue signaling, that is what Nina basically is, except for she's actually hot. Then you have another guy, the last guy of the group. He's not Kevin, he goes by the name Kev, which already screams douchebag. You saw him in the trailer, he's the guy that has the helmet on and he's shirtless. Kev and Eli are the most annoying characters in this game. Kev doesn't wear a shirt because he doesn't like shirts. He's a DJ. And that doesn't scream douchebag when you do that for a living, but you're trying to pay off student debt. I don't know what the fuck could. He wears headphones all the time. He talks about waffles all the time. He loves waffles. That's a fucking personality trait. He also happens to be bisexual, which also has to be another checkbox that we have to put in games and movies and everything else now. And they don't even utilize that. They don't even like bring in like his girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. They don't even do something like that, which could have been different from something like Sleeping Dogs, GTA, True Crime. You could have actually had his lover in the game, no matter what gender it was. They didn't even do that. That's how low they think of you. They didn't even give a shit enough to have Kev have his boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever he would have at the time on the screen. But there you go. Apparently virtue signaling doesn't exist, but that's not the most fucking definitive proof I've ever seen in my life of that being the case. Get over yourself. I can't stand him. Kev is so fucking annoying, and the fact that he even has a waffle tattoo on his chest, not on like his arm, not on his bicep, not on his ass cheek, where no one in the world could see it. No, he puts it on his chest and then doesn't wear a shirt, ever. The shirt could at least cover up the embarrassment of it. But no, he wears a fucking waffle tattoo everywhere he goes. It's embarrassing. I fucking hate that character. I can't stand Eli either. They're both awful. They're just, the dialogue for them is cringy, and I know I keep saying that word, but I don't even have examples off the top of my head. It's just things like the ridiculous carbon footprint comment the supposed gangster mastermind Eli is talking about in the game quite a bit. There's one story mode that I do enjoy. It matches the childishness of Kev. It's basically, you have to go from fast food place to fast food place, basically like a McDonald's chain, to get a specific Happy Meal toy for him. Because he wanted one when he was a kid. This is a re-release. He wants it really bad. I get that. As an adult, I got a Turbo Man last year for Christmas. Like, I get that shit. I get it. I don't mind that. That was actually a fun story mode mission. There's a couple in here, like I said, involving the LARPing storyline with Eli. Those are cool. I wish it wasn't those two characters motivating the story. They're not well written. They're so insulting as characters. I can imagine the smugness that these people who wrote this bullshit had on their face when they wrote this on paper or on a laptop or whatever. I can just feel it, the smugness behind some of the jokes. But it's not really woke. Like I said, it's not really woke. It's like 5% of the time it's more liberal than woke, which are kind of the same thing, but kind of not. You can be a liberal and not be a jackass. Woke is usually just jackassness. But like 5% of the time it's kind of wokish, liberalish, whatever. And that didn't bother me that much. That really didn't get in the way when you're doing the activities. And like I said, you can unlock a lot of cool stuff in here. You can have a really fun time. I just wish, number one, the guns were more powerful. And I wish, number two, that the story mode wasn't so short and wasn't so annoying. Maybe that's why they made it annoying. I feel like it's a budget restraint. A lot of the clear-cut signs of budget restraint that are in here are very in your face. One of the greatest examples is that every single level seems to be go here, shoot this person, or shoot these people, have an all-out war. It feels very repetitive, very often. Even some of the side quests that I enjoy are typically go here, shoot somebody, or fly helicopter here, pick this up, or drive here, grab this, get back in your car, go over here. It's very repetitive in that nature, but if you like what you're getting to do, or you like the kind of execution, sometimes it can be silly, sometimes it can be more serious. If you like that kind of stuff, you can have fun in the activities section of this game, which is a good 75 to 80% of the game in total. I think are really, really, really enjoyable. Let's talk about the music some. So there's radio stations on your cars. And I was really upset not to see an 80s station here. They kind of try to make up for that for a really lackluster, but probably the best station in the entire game, for me, at least in my taste. It's like a modern new wave retro station that plays like the same 3, maybe 4 songs over and over again. They swear up and down when you look at the playlists on your phone in the game that all these different stations have like more than 3 or 4 songs. They really don't. There's a rap station in here called The Cypher that's fantastic. Has a lot of classics like Y'all Gonna Make Me Lose My Mind Up in Here. Yeah, that's a whole title I just spat at you. They have songs like that. They have songs like that one song. It's like Whoop Whoop, The Sound of the Police. That song, you know these songs. The Sound of the Beast, all that. I really love that rap station. It's great. It's the stuff that I grew up on. But why have, in this modern-day setted game, why have older rap music in it from, like, the 2000s? But you're going to have new retro wave music from, like, 2020. What? Well, why? Why would you blend those two? Then you have, like, a Spanish station, which I don't speak Spanish. The music, I guess, is okay. It's not even really good Spanish music. It's just fine. It's just fine. I don't really pay attention to that one. You had another one that's kind of like more rap-ish, R&B-ish. It's more like female rapping. That's okay. Not really great. That's about like the 3rd on my list of okay with the other 2 that I mentioned that I liked. And there's one called Overdrive that has like 1 good song on it, maybe 2. And that one might have like 5 different songs on it. There is a rock station on here if you like that, but it's more of a screamo station. It's called Nuclear Blast, I believe. That one was a big letdown. I was really hoping for more regular rock stuff. One of the songs sounds like a Disturbed song. It might be them, it might not be. One of the bands on there sounds like Black Sabbath. It is not Ozzy Osbourne. And then you have one that, well, quite a few that seem like they're just screamo songs, which I understand it takes talent for the instrument part of that, but the screaming part, no. I don't have respect for that. I feel like most people in the rock scene now can do that kind of thing. It doesn't impress me. But the music in general in the game, whether it be orchestrated for cutscenes, whether it be really anything on the radio almost, most of it, I would say about 85% of that is trash. There just feels like kind of placeholders until we would get a finished game and then have better music on it. That's what it feels like to me. The game clearly has budget restraints on it, or time constraints, or something to that effect. I think it's a little bit of both, personally, with the lack of interiors and that kind of thing. But so much of the game gets so much right, like all the customization stuff, that I just can't see them having too many oversights. I feel like it's a time crunch thing. They didn't have enough time to make what they wanted to. But I'm telling you, with the atmosphere, the details on some of the smallest things, I loved so much. And then the different vehicles, like I said, there's one particular jet that I love. I got it towards the end of the game, and I played the hell out of this game with that when I was doing side missions. It is so much fun. to drive things, to fly things in this game. I love the map. Like I said, I hope I reinstate that constantly. I love the map design. I love the map layout. I love this massive bridge in here that reminds me of like an Ultor bridge from the first couple of games, or the first 3 games. I don't know about 4. I don't think it was in 4. But this company that's in this game called Marshall, that you work for in the beginning of the game and then you lose your job, is very much like Ultor. But it's so boring compared to Ultor and the storyline you had for Ultor in Saints Row the Third. I think it was Ultor in 3 or 2, something like that, or both. I think it was both. But still, the game has so many lackluster moments to it that really deflate a lot of the excitement around it. And like I said, I'll tell you again, when I started playing the story mode for like the first 20 minutes, it almost made me want to quit. Because the action is subpar, the storyline is fucking horrible, the characters are bad except for Nina. Even the villains are kind of lackluster. Like I said, you have the Marshall Corporation, you have the cops you have to deal with too. But the real gangs you have in here, like the Panteros, they're more of a Latino themed gang that, you know, they have cool customized cars. I really like their orange muscle cars. They look great. The big monster trucks they drive are really cool. Then you have like this group called the Idols, which in the trailer you saw Kev wearing an Idol's helmet. It's like the digital helmet that makes the face and shit. I can't stand those fucking helmets. The Idols are the gang that utilize those helmets. They're in this game quite a bit, and they're embarrassing. There's a lot of neon in the game, but a lot of it's focused around them and on them, and in their clothing and on their cars and shit. And it looks bad, in my opinion. I can't stand the Idols. I think they're one of the worst gangs in all of Saints Row history. With all that being said, though, I really hope I nailed home the fact that there's so many good things about this game. There are so many enjoyable things about this game. I just have immense issues with quite a few things that only make up about 5% of this game that I don't love. Or truly hate, like with the cringy-ass writing and the horrible story in here that Saints Row never deserved something that lackluster. It's a special series. It deserved a lot better. The game deserved more interiors. Especially, that's a big thing that should have been more in here. There might be a little bit of repetitiveness to it, but I don't regret at all hitting the 100% mark on this game. I thought it was so much fun. I had more fun in this than I've had in a long time in gaming, even though I played through those recent 4 GTA games I talked about, that I love, all of those games. Well, 3 is a little bit lackluster compared to Vice City and San Andreas and Lost and Damned, but still, I loved all 4 of those games, in their own way per game. But this one I love in a different way. It's kind of a bland sandbox game for most people, but if you're a big Saints Row fan, there's a lot of cool things in here you can experience and enjoy. A lot of new things too, like the wingsuit. You can jump off a really high point like a mountaintop or like a helipad, and you can open up your arms like Batman Beyond and have like this wings. And you can customize that too. You can get like spider webs like Spider-Man. It's great. I love all that stuff. I like all the new stuff pretty much. There's so much good in here, and Volition, I think you have completely fucked up the amount of excitement a lot of us had when we heard you were making a new Saints Row game years ago. I think you've completely dropped the ball in so many ways for something that so many of us wanted so deeply. If you're looking for like secrets and scary things and all that shit, like we all used to look up for GTA games back in the day when we were kids, you have those kind of things in here, the mysteries, the mystery caves and stuff. There's one island in this game that I tell you this because I have to spoil it for you. It's not a big spoiler for story or anything, not like that matters, but on the map, there's a place in the dead middle of the map that you have to take a boat to or fly a helicopter or fly a jet or something to it. I'm not kidding you. I walked around on this island. It's abandoned, it's a wasteland, there's grass growing out everywhere. It looks like something out of The Last of Us. I walked around forever, like 2 hours, walking from place to place in that area because of how desolate and scary and creepy it was. It is such a creepy area. It's one of those things like the desert in San Andreas, that there's just something really, truly unnerving about it. Or like the sex cave you find in Saints Row 2. It's one of those kinds of things that just feel off-putting. It was eerie. It put a chill down my spine a couple of times. with such a lackluster portion of this game, you have things like that that really, really, really show the potential for it. And Volition dropped the ball for political bullshit. Or ESG money. I don't know what happened, but something like that happened. I truly believe that. Yes, there are restraints and constraints, but it's not a complete loss, is what I'm saying. It's not something like, there's one game I played years ago. It was a first-person shooter. My cousin and I heard about it. We rented it. I think it was called a Rogue Warrior or something like that. It was around the peak of Call of Duty. And it's based on like a book series. I can't remember what it is. I'm pretty sure it's the Rogue Warrior or something like that. And the game, it was so cheap and it was so lackluster and I wanted to love it. But it was bad. It was bad and I can admit it. I completed that whole game, the whole story mode. It was a longer campaign too, like 7-8 hours, which is pretty long for that time. With Call of Duty campaigns being like 6 hours at the time, maybe even now, I don't know. But I don't have to force myself to love this the way I did something like that, or like it, or whatever. There are so many good things about it, and I am so sad to see how many people hate this game, because if they just stuck around it, or ignored the cringy-ass story, they would have a good time. I genuinely believe that, especially the big Saints Row fans like myself. As I said, I'm currently playing through Saints Row 4. I hope I can get around and do a really special review for that as well. I'm also really actively playing Modern Warfare 2019 right now. I don't know if I mentioned that in this review or not. A thought popped in my head a moment ago. I thought about it, but I didn't say anything. Modern Warfare 2019 is pretty bland too. It's pretty, but it's kind of bland from what I'm seeing so far, like halfway through the story. I don't know if this is a common thing with modern games. I played House of Ashes from the Dark Pictures anthology. Most of this past weekend, I finally completed it. I did a review for it. And I loved about 80% of that game. And then I got to a really horrible twist on the villains in that game. And kind of killed it for me. Even though I had a good time. Is this just like a common thing with games? Because I've been out of the group, out of the community for so long. Not just with Saints Row or any of these things I just mentioned, like the horror community. I don't know if it's just common to have bad endings or bad storylines and good gameplay. I don't know what's common, but it seems like it is common from what I'm able to see for right now. Even with all that being said, I have to bring up one more thing I just thought about that was a really, really bad new thing, in my opinion. There's a feature in this game where you have perks or skills. It's mainly perks. And essentially these perks are like secondary abilities. If you don't want to just, throw down with your fist or a machete or an axe, which you can use all those things, by the way, which are really cool. I love the axe. The axe and the machete both are really cool. If you wanted to cosplay as Jason Voorhees in here, you could do that, and that'd be sick. If you love all those things, if you don't want to use guns, and you want to use, like, ability type stuff, this game tried too hard to mimic Fortnite, and a lot of the art style represents that too, but I think not as much because I love the detailing of it. It's definitely influenced by it, but this perks thing is a horrible idea. I do not like it in my Saints Row, nor would I like it in GTA. It's kind of like the three-person switching perspectives thing in GTA 5. I do not like that about that game. I feel like it really harmed the game's narrative for that game. For the perks thing here, where you have like different abilities, like you might be able to like toss a bomb, but not like in your basic way where you switch your weapon wheel to a grenade or something and throw it over to the group of people. It's not like that. It's like you hit like LB or RB on the Xbox One controller and then hit like A, B, Y, or X on the four that you have selected on your wheel for that. And then it does one of those abilities, and those abilities are all so generic. Just the only one I like is when you can throw a bomb, and then there's like a kung fu thing you can do on one of the other side missions where you can throw fire, which is pretty cool. That stuff was neat, but I do not like I do not like the perks. I know I talked about the driving. I forgot to mention too, though, that I loved the kind of drift function in here. It's not really an e-brake button. You have your, of course, triggers to stop and go, but you also have like the A button. When you're going to second gear in your car, you can hit the A button and you can drift, and you can hold it forever. It's kind of a broken, weird drift. But I'll tell you this, there ain't nothing fucking more satisfying than playing this game, just like when you're playing GTA and you become a mastermind of the controls and the driving in that game, or any of those games. When you're driving in this game, if you hit a corner just perfect, that you drifted around and made it right into like a lane or right around like 2 or 3 cars, I'm telling you, the feeling that you get is impeccable. It is a great feeling. There are so many good highlights like that. I'm so sad to see this game kind of suck. With the main stuff, the really important stuff that people are going to come to first, like the storyline. But overall, Saints Row 2022, it's got its big old flaws. 5% of the time for me. Maybe 10% if you consider the repetitiveness of it. Maybe it's higher for you, percentage-wise, on the repetitive nature of it, ruining it for you. For me, though, I had a wonderful time outside of the story mode. Everything else I got to do, I was impressed by. I had a good time with it. Yeah, I kind of jumped around between activities to have a little bit of some kind of different, I guess. But I loved the game. I genuinely do. I think the gameplay aspect of it is fantastic. Even if the shooting's not wonderful. But most of the gameplay, I think, is phenomenal. I really do. And I think the driving stuff is great. I think the customization stuff is great. I think the music is lackluster. It needs improvement on that. There was so much about this game, even visually, that's astounding to me. That really, truly blew me away. It makes me sad as a Saints Row fan to see what's going to happen with this franchise because of the bullshit behind the scenes with this game. And what's in it, but still, the behind the scenes shit is what caused people to turn their heads away from this game. This game was not a controversial game. It's too watered down with the humor and stuff, but behind the scenes, the online community surrounding the people who created the game, the people who made the game themselves, being what they like to call toxic, even though they like to call us fans toxic for our opinions and our criticisms, they caused this controversy. It's their fucking fault, not ours. We didn't make the game. But those people, no matter what you think about them, they had extreme talent involved here, just not in the writing department, usually. There's a lot of great stuff in here. I really recommend Saints Row 2022 if you haven't played it before. Just try your best to plug your ears and close your eyes through these ugly-ass cutscenes and the really terrible writing. If you can do that, I'm telling you, I think you'll have a good time. If you're playing a game just for the gameplay and the customization options that a lot of newer GTAs like GTA 4 and 5 really don't give you as much as what I remember. If that disappoints you, I think Saints Row 2022 can really fill that void for you. That's how I feel personally. I had a great time with most of this, and I would do it all over again, frankly. I would do it all over again, and I mean that. This is a very long review. I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping it up now. I'm sorry for such a ramble. I just really wanted to get my thoughts and opinions out there in a non-spoiler way, because I had so much to say. I care about Saints Row, and I really care about this game. As flawed as it is, I can't talk. As flawed as it is, I love it. I love it a lot, and it's one of the only games in recent years I've done 100% on. Which should tell you everything you need to know. But anyway, what did you think about Saints Row 2022? I have a feeling I already know your opinions on it, but if you happen to like the game, I would love to hear from you down in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you think about it. What do you think could be improved or taken away or installed or any of those things? What do you think should be changed the most? I'd love to hear all that down below too. What's your favorite car in the game? I'll tell you. I made one. It's kind of an old like 20s vehicle, like a Model T type of thing. It's called a bucket. I made this thing convertible. I had black paint on it, and then I had flames on it. Sounds like your typical hot rod generic nonsense, but I'm going to tell you, with the engine design for these games, the sounds of the engines, I mean, for the cars, they're beautiful. They are beautiful. I love it. And the sound and look of this car was so badass. Driving that around the city at nighttime with all the neon, especially in the Las Vegas area, man, it makes you feel great. It's such a great game in so many ways. I'm so sad to see how many people hate it and couldn't make it through all the bullshit in this game from the company Volition, who is probably gone permanently now. Anyway, that's my thoughts on Saints Row 2022. I'm so surprised by how much I love this. I'm really kind of shocked and surprised. A little bit sad. But still, I'm glad I had a good time. I'm glad my wife got me something that was worth the money. As much as I was reluctant about it, as much as I was worried about it, as much as I was hating the beginning parts of it, I had a great time by the end of it. I really mean that. Anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts. Put them down in the comment section down below, folks. Thank you so much for listening to this long-ass ramble. I'd love to hear everything you have to say. In response, I hope you'll just be civil to somebody who didn't expect to like the game to begin with. I promise you, I'm not a shill at all. I'm not trying to do that with this game. I promise you I'm not, because I have a lot of complaints with it. I wish it was way more offensive. Very much more offensive. But anyway, what do you think about the game? Put your thoughts and comments down below for the 4th time, and thank you so much for watching. God bless you all. I hope you had a Merry Christmas. I hope you have a wonderful New Year when it comes around. My next review will probably be for Modern Warfare 2019. I'm not sure what's coming up after that. Not really sure. I have a lot of new stuff I got. I'm kind of leaning towards finishing up Lego Star Wars 2. I'm kind of leaning towards starting Spider-Man for PS2. I'm kind of leaning towards finishing Saints Row 4. That might take some time, though. I don't know how long that game is. And if I get as involved in that with the side quest stuff as I did here, well, shit, I'll be playing it for a while. There's a lot of stuff I'd like to do, but I'm kind of trying to delve into some of the newer stuff. I have quite a few horror games coming in the mail that I bought with some Christmas money, and I'm really stoked. I got a lot of cool stuff for Christmas. I haven't made my Christmas haul video yet. I need to do that before New Year's, so I'll probably try to get that out the next day or so. We will see what happens. But anyway, for right now, guys, thank you so much for watching again. And God bless you again. Have a happy new year. Let me know some recommendations you think down in the comment section. Would you like to see Saints Row game reviews from me at some point? I'd love to do that if you'd like it. This is one of my favorite series ever. Easily. Anyway, thank you guys. God bless you all. Happy New Year again, and goodbye.